on? It's Cinema Lovers Incorporated, back at you again with a brand new video, and today I am bringing you a brand new review of Fear the Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 5, titled Laura. Now, before I start this review, I just want to apologize for this late review. I wanted to give this episode another shot, another watch. I thought it was good the first time I watched it, but I wanted to watch it again and pick up on some of the things I didn't like the first time I watched it, and then I picked up on some new things my second time I watched it, and I wanted to talk about it in the review. So what do I think of this episode? I think this episode was pretty much good. However, it does have a couple problems. I think this episode is really, really interesting. It explores John Dorie, this really odd character. I don't think we've ever had such an odd character in the Walking Dead universe. Well, maybe Eugene, but John Dorie is very odd, and he's likable. He's extremely goofy and likable, and we really get to know more about him, about his job as a policeman, how he shot this man, and the man bled out, and it really haunts John Dorie. That's why he never used his pistols, and I really enjoy that storyline. He finds Laura, a.k.a. Naomi. He calls her Laura. And Naomi washes up on shore, and they develop a friendship, soon to be a relationship, and they develop into a relationship. And I think this episode, I really enjoyed this story. I enjoyed their character development back and forth, and it's not perfect. Laura, the characters are most of the time great. I really enjoy the performances. The writing is way better than The Walking Dead. And let's talk about the setting. The setting in this episode is gorgeous. I love this Texas look. This backdrop is just beautiful. You have the gorgeous river. You have John Dorie's canoe that he takes up to the town, and I think that's really, really interesting. It's a really cool, fun transportation method we have really never seen in the Walking Dead universe. We kind of saw it in The Walking Dead Season 7, that one part where Aaron and Rick go across to the other area, but we've never seen it like this. I just love the view. The setting in this episode is amazing. You have John Dorie's cabin kind of area, you have the town, you have the bridge, and then you have the river, and it looks gorgeous on TV. I think they're just filming. The filming is really, really good on Fear the Walking Dead, and that is a major plus. I really enjoy Naomi. A lot of people said she's a lot like Carol, and she reminds me a lot of Carol. She actually sounds like Carol a little bit too. The problems I have with this episode are, there's actually quite a few. Number one, the characters, I don't know. It takes a while for me to get used to these characters talking to each other. When you see them first, when you see Naomi get washed up on shore, you don't really believe that they're going to fall in love until later on, where they learn more about each other. And sometimes I think John Dorie is way too sweet. I think he's way too jumping on rainbows, you know what I mean, blowing bubbles, all that kind of stuff, shooting hearts out of his eyes. Sometimes it's a little bit too cute, in my opinion, because I'm a man, It was a little too cutesy sometimes, but I think that's the character, and I accepted it for what it was. Another big problem I had was the bridge scene. The bridge scene is a very, very poor part in this episode. I'm talking about when John is in the vehicle and we have a zombie coming up close and personal to John, and Naomi all of a sudden is like, John, shoot it, John, shoot it, John. It just feels so out of place. It just feels like the writers don't know what to do in this part, and they're just trying to get John to use his pistols again to move the plot along. It just doesn't feel natural. Naomi's just standing there. She's just sitting there, and she doesn't even try and help John. John was about to die. If John didn't kill the zombie, he would be dead, thanks to Naomi. Because Naomi's like, kill it, John, shoot it, John. Why would John shoot it? There's no point of John shooting it, because Naomi could have just jumped on top of the zombie and stabbed it. I don't really know the point of this scene, and it was probably without a doubt one of the worst parts of the episode. Another horrible part in the episode is when Naomi is talking to John, and before the commercial break she said, "I lost my child." And when I was watching this the first ever time, I'm like, okay, what did she say? And I was like, oh, she lost her child. Okay. And then watching it again, my two grandparents, they didn't even understand what she was saying. This plot point is never brought up again in the rest of the episode. Her losing her child is never brought up again. At all. And I'm like, what? What was the point? So that's another big problem in this episode. Another problem is near the end after they clear out the zombies. And the zombies are all cleared out, the ones that fall off the bridge. Their car barricade did not work, obviously, and the zombies fall into the water. So they clear out the zombies. Afterwards, they sit and they talk, they kiss, and then they go to bed. But they don't take care of the problem. And there could be more walkers coming. And the whole thing could have been repeated again, and they would have to fight the zombies again. And they just go to sleep and they kind of ignore it. And they never bring it up again. The whole plot point of the bridge never comes up again. That's another one of my problems in this episode. It just doesn't feel right. So yeah, I think the rest of the episode is mostly good. I think some of the scenes, the writing reminds me of The Walking Dead a little bit too much, and I didn't like it where I didn't like the part where John in the beginning is trying to find a word. I know he's playing this game and he's trying to discover the word. It just was cartoony to me. It just didn't feel right, and he's like portable, blah 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 blah. It just was cartoony and felt off, and it ruined the scene for me. It could have been a dramatic scene. It shows how bored this guy is. He is so incredibly bored because he has nobody. So he's coming up with these words, but it just doesn't feel right. It comes off as cartoony. What else don't I like? Just some of the stuff they say is just poorly written. It kind of reminds me of The Walking Dead, where he's talking about the soup. Stuff like that is... Oh, and then he says, "You look like a Laura." I just don't understand what that means. You know, what does that even mean? You look like a Laura. If I look at my grandmother, Oma Jelaine, she's Oma Jelaine, how... She doesn't look like anything. She doesn't look like any name. So that right there is just bad writing right there, where he's like, "You look like a Laura, I'm going to name you Laura." And I was really, really... I don't know. Another problem I have is her not revealing her name. She never tells John her name. And it just kind of feels like she's leading John on. And John, at the end, kind of comes off as a creep. She gives him these weird looks like John's a creep. And I don't know if this was intentional, but she never reveals her name to John. And it just feels like she's trying to get John, out of the way. I don't know if she truly loves John. I think she started falling for him. And yeah, but some of these looks she gives him, it's a look of, "Hey guy, stay away from me," But nevertheless, I think this was a fun episode. I had a couple problems with it, but I enjoyed the look. I enjoyed the characters. Most of the time, these characters are great. I enjoyed the bridge scene, the way everything's filmed. I really enjoyed the part where the zombies come up and attack the house. Oh, there's one more problem I did not talk about. The suspense. There's no suspense because we know these two characters will survive and go on to do better things in Fear the Walking Dead. Now, it worked better in The Walking Dead Season 6 when we had the Eastman flashback because we never saw Eastman again. And we never knew if Eastman, disappeared or died. So it was actually suspenseful when we see Eastman fight. When we watch them fight in this episode, it's not suspenseful because we know they will survive. So all the fighting in this episode is entirely pointless. Especially the part when they attack the house. It's entirely pointless because we know they will survive. However, it did get the plot going because Jon was forced to use his pistols, so it wasn't entirely pointless. But, you know, there's no suspense because you know these characters will survive. So what am I going to rate this episode? I'm going to rate this episode a solid B+. I thought it was enjoyable for what it was. I think it's better than last week because I just enjoyed the setting. I think the plot moved along pretty well. And I really enjoyed how Jon cared for Laura, you know, how they patched her up. And I thought this episode was a solid, fun episode. The next episode looks really entertaining. The plot, still, I'm really worried about the plot. It's not moving around that good. I just don't like the vultures. I'm not buying the vultures idea. Them spreading out the vultures, it's a horrible idea. And I really don't think this should have been the flashback episode. I think they should have maybe had this in the second half because we really needed to resolve the vultures. And them spreading the vultures out is just making me shrug. And whenever I see the vultures now, I go, ugh, get on with it. I don't like the villain group. We kind of understand more about them, but they're generic. So what did you think of my review? Comment down below, subscribe, do whatever the heck you want to do. Fear the Walking Dead Season 4, what do you think of it? Right now, I have mixed feelings. I think the episodes, they delivered really good things. However, it's just nowhere near as impactful as Season 3 was. So let me know down below what you think. Comment down below, subscribe, do whatever the heck you want to do, and goodbye. Bye, everyone.